I'm going to share my screen and we'll do some drawing. Okay, so we are starting at the bottom, at the end. Profitable business. That's the goal, right? Let's give it a little color. We know that's what we're going for. So obviously we're not talking about any business. We're talking about a business that is something in the software, right? So let's just add some notes here. Software business. And what is the state that immediately precedes having a profitable business? So you guys are developers. You know what a state diagram looks like, right? The circles are states, the arrows are transitions. So if we want to put a state just before here, reverse this arrow, what happens before this?
Non-profitable business. No business at all.
No business at all. Well, that's not the state before that, because before you can declare yourself to be a profitable business, you need some paying customers. You usually can't do that without paying customers, right? There are other ways to create a profitable business. For example, if you have, doesn't work as much as it used to, but if you, back in the day, if you had a content website of some sort, you could set it up and then put ads on, and then you would have a profitable business. But the kind of profitable business, especially if it's software, especially if it's SaaS, the point is usually to have paying customers. And what happens before you have paying customers? What do you think?
have like non-paying customers?
Non-paying customers, yes. It's not strictly necessary, so some kind of free users. It's not strictly necessary to have a lot of free users and then figure out how to monetize. We'll put monetize here, monetize. It's not strictly necessary to go this path. You can go directly to paying customers, but usually you will have some free users. Maybe it's like 5 people, early beta testers, or some kind of some people that experience this. Okay. Now we're getting into harder ideas, or not yet, but what comes right before having free users?
0 users.
Okay. 0 users. But it is true that there are 0 users here, but you can have 0 users and no idea. You can have 0 users and an idea, 0 users and an MVP, 0 users and a built product. So 0 users doesn't actually define the state. So we'll talk about that. There are not trick questions here. Before you have free users, you need to have some kind of product. Like you need for them to use something, right? Could be an MVP, it could be a full built thing. It needs to be something, so they could use it. And before we have a product,
Idea.
yes, idea. So let's look at this map. We come up with an idea, we build a product, we get some free users, we get some paying users, boom, profitable business. Anything missing?
Validating the idea, or even
Yeah. That's why the idea is actually not here. We'll put it aside. It does fit into the diagram, but ideally what you want here is some sort of validation. Before you build a product, you want to know that it's valuable. Now, there are 2 things here. Validation, you can do 2 types of validation. You can have either problem validation or solution validation. So let's see this? This looks like a coffee cup. It actually has water in it, because for some reason I like to drink water out of coffee cups. So the problem is that I'm thirsty, and I have a cup of coffee, I have a cup of water. These are both solutions to the problem. But before I drink something, I need to be thirsty, because if I'm not thirsty, I'm not going to drink anything. So these are 2 very distinct things. Understanding that the problem you're solving, or confirming that the problem you're solving is an actual problem that exists for an actual group of people, is one thing, and it is separate from the same group of people acknowledging that the solution you have is actually a valid solution for that problem. Now, as engineers, we typically miss that distinction because problems and solutions arise in our heads at the same time. When someone says, I have an idea for a startup, they typically don't mean I've noticed a problem. They typically mean I've noticed a problem and I have a solution at the same time. We are solution people. This is our job. We are hired to solve problems. The problems come from outside, other parts of the organization if you work for a company, or it's already predefined because the thing exists already. So it is really difficult for us to do this, to do the problem validation. It's so difficult that when I talk to developers about how to reach out to people, most of the answers or most of the thinking is, well, I want to show them something that I built. It's like there is no way to have a conversation about a problem without showing something that you built. And it's true, it's difficult, it's different. But imagine someone who doesn't have technical skills, doesn't know how to build, and still wants to build a startup. Can they talk about a solution?
They could, but it's hard.
It's hard because they don't have solutions. They can kind of hand the wave around it, but they can talk about problems. So ChatGPT wrappers are in vogue right now. Everybody's building ChatGPT wrappers. And I think that there is a very, very large market for a lot of different ChatGPT wrappers in many different niches. I don't have doubt about it. Most people in the world, most people haven't heard of ChatGPT, and those who didn't try it. It's only in our little kind of Twitter builder bubble that everybody has tried every variation of ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT, the actual OpenAI ChatGPT, I think has 100 million users, something like that. It's still a very small percentage of the people in the world, right? We're not talking about global domination yet. We're not even talking about like Facebook level, which is also hasn't gotten to everybody. It's not 2 billion users. We're still pretty far from that. And Twitter has like 350 million people on it, and not all of them know what ChatGPT is or even have any relationship to it. But I have a ChatGPT, like when you say I have a ChatGPT wrapper that does this and this is a solution. This is not a problem. And talking about problems is the core of validation. So we need to validate the problem we're solving to some extent. Because if you validate a problem, what you hear from people is, you know what, this is a really significant thing for me. That's what validation sounds like. When you talk about a solution and you haven't related it to a problem, what people will tell you, oh, this is a really cool idea, which means nothing. This is a really cool idea is not validation. It's just people being nice or people acknowledging your genius, but it's not, it doesn't say that these people would want to buy or even use whatever you're building. So let's call it solution validation second, and we'll put problem validation before that. Validation. All right. What do you think happens before we have problem validation?
We have a problem.
Yes. Or specifically, we have a problem hypothesis. So we think we noticed a problem for a particular group of people in a particular situation. I don't know, doctors, surgeons in an operating room want to have notes of the process. They want to speak, and they want not talking about solutions. They want to be able to speak and to then have notes. Now you're all thinking, oh, we can use Whisper, we can transcribe and create a summary with AI for that thing. But there are other solutions for that thing. For example, a nurse could sit in with a clipboard and write down notes and then type it up on a computer, right? So the same problem can have multiple solutions. So when we have a problem hypothesis, for example, like that, in order to have problem validation, we would need to talk to surgeons, and we would need to kind of hear them say, you know what, that's a big problem. We don't actually have people who can write things down. Listening to recordings from a recording device is annoying and it's time consuming and so on and so forth. And because of that, this is a significant problem, and the hospital doesn't want to pay for anything different for us to use. So before we have problem validation, we have some kind of a problem hypothesis. Where do these problem hypotheses come from?